Well, welcome everybody. Happy Wednesday. This is our Coastkeeper streams on the Poseidon Desalination Plant update. So I want to say welcome to all of you for coming to our meeting and learning a little bit more about Poseidon. Um, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off a little bit with about what what's going on very basically with Poseidon and what is going on at the regional board, and then we'll talk a little bit more about how to participate in the upcoming workshop that the regional board is having on Poseidon this Friday, May 15th. So the first thing, I'll start off a little bit about Poseidon. So Poseidon is a proposal for a gigantic desalination plant in Huntington Beach. This is a corporation, a publicly held corporation. It's actually Brookfield Incorporated that wants to build this giant water factory in Huntington Beach. They've been trying to build this factory for close to 20 years now. And I would like to say that the reason that it's hasn't been successful has been because of our efforts to stop it, but it's really because this is just a giant boondoggle. It's really not a good idea, and there's some very significant problems with them. My elevator speech on Poseidon is that it's going to pollute our water, kill our marine life, cost a fortune, and most important, we don't need it. So I'm going to talk a little bit about each of those things, and then, like I said, I'll talk about the regional board. So on the pollute our water part, so this plant would produce a toxic brine, and it would discharge about 50 million gallons a day of toxic brine to the ocean, right offshore of Huntington Beach. Right now, there's no discharge of toxic brine to the ocean in that area. So this is a new pollution source. This is very significant. What analysis has found is that this would kill about 400 acres of ocean. So this is not a minor environmental impact, and this is a serious threat to our marine life. Any of it that occurs between Dana Point and Palos Verdes. So the second part is impacts to marine life. So the impacts to marine life come from both that discharge of brine and from the intake, which will take in 50 million gallons of water, 100 million gallons of water a day. So not only will all the marine life that gets sucked into the plant be killed, it will also end up killing the marine life that gets caught in the brine discharge, because it's going to be a highly turbulent brine discharge that will basically shred any marine life that gets next to it. And then the plant is proposing to use screens on their intake. However, those screens are only 1% effective in protecting marine life. So 99% of the marine life out in the ocean is smaller than 1 millimeter, which is the size these screens would be. So effectively, the screens mean absolutely nothing. So there's our pollution impacts, water pollution impacts, and serious impacts to marine life. Next is a serious impact to your wallet. So this is very expensive water. In fact, it's the most expensive produced water out there. Only bottled water is more expensive than this. So to give us an example, our groundwater that we pump out of the ground, which is 75% of our water in North and Central Orange County, costs about $575 an acre foot. Our imported water and our recycled water, which we have abundant amounts of and only make up a fraction of the rest of our use, is $1,000 an acre foot. So we pay almost double for that imported water than we do for the groundwater. The desalinated water costs $2,800 an acre foot. So it's amazingly more expensive. And we have an accurate number from that because that's what the Poseidon Carlsbad plant charges for their desalinated water produced down in San Diego. So that's 5 times the cost of our groundwater, almost 3 times the cost of our imported water. So we're really looking at just the most wildly expensive option. And then the last thing is that we don't need it. So we don't need it because we have abundant other water sources. So we don't have Poseidon right now. There has not been any water shortages. Nobody has run out of water. We had a horrible drought. We're always in drought, but we had a particularly bad drought through 2014, 15. So we cut back a little bit. The governor ordered us to cut back. We made it through fine, made it through that period, and now we're back to where we were. And we always want to conserve water, but there isn't a need for 50 million gallons a day of new, wildly expensive water. So that covers our 4 things. Again, that is polluted water, dead marine life, high cost, and lack of need for this water. So where is this project at? So what's going on now is the project is going through a review process at the state agency level. So in 2018, they went through a review from the State Lands Commission. The State Lands Commission did approve a renewed permit for Poseidon. We were very unhappy and had multiple legal questions about that renewal. So we sued the State Lands Commission over that, and that's still in court right now at the appeals level. And we're hoping to hear something about that later this year. Right now, what's going on is that it has moved on to what's called the Santa Ana Regional Water Quality Control Board. So the Santa Ana Regional Water Quality Control Board is the state agency that issues permits for things like discharging waste into the ocean, which is what Poseidon will do, and killing marine life, which is what Poseidon will do. So what the Regional Water Board is looking at is, does Poseidon comply with the statewide policy that was developed in 2016 that requires that all desalination plants be located in the proper place and use the best technology and be sized to minimize the impacts to marine life. So our argument is that Poseidon is in the wrong place, it's using the wrong technology, and they're proposing too big a plant to comply with that policy. And we're asking the regional board to deny a permit to Poseidon because it doesn't comply with that policy. We're not completely against ocean desalination. For instance, there's another idea in Orange County for a desalination plant down in Dana Point at Doheny Beach. That plant is actually located in a place where it can use better technology that reduces the impact of marine life, practically eliminates the impact of marine life, and it's sized for the right amount of need, and it's located in a place where there's a greater need for imported water, because down in that part of the county, they actually import 90% of their water. So it might not be a bad idea to have a backup plan. So again, it's not that we're against all desalination or that you can't build a plant that complies with the state policy and have that happen. It's just that's exactly what Poseidon is not. And they're attempting to exploit loopholes in that policy to try to squeeze this plant through using political pressure. So we really need your help, the public's help, in speaking out at the board and telling them what we think, and we're going to tell you exactly how to do that. So now to that review process, the state board released a draft permit for Poseidon back in November of 2019. There was a review period of that. And during that review period, they held a public workshop in December 6, 2019 at Huntington Beach City Hall. We turned out hundreds of people at that meeting. Some of you on this call were there, and we really let the board know what we thought about Poseidon, and they heard us. The board had a number of questions and a number of concerns about the Poseidon proposal, and they directed the staff to go back and specifically look at things like, what is the real need for the project? What is the mitigation being proposed? Is there better mitigation that is being proposed for the tremendous kill of marine life that the project would have? There was insufficient data on fish data and other data to determine the actual amount of mitigation that should occur. So these were just some of the questions that were sent back to the board. So the staff worked on that, and then they produced a revised staff report, and they scheduled another public hearing for March 13th, 2020. Well, unfortunately, we're all aware of what happened in about mid-March of 2020. So that public meeting was canceled, and it was been rescheduled for this Friday, May 15th. So this time it's a virtual online meeting. It's going to be by Zoom, just like we're doing right now. So there is the opportunity for you to participate in that meeting by Zoom. And I'm going to talk in a little bit about how to do that. But first, I'd like to stop for a little bit and see if anybody has any questions on what I've talked about so far, on why we don't like Poseidon, or why we should like Poseidon, what the regional board's role is, or where we're at in the process. So I just want to go ahead and stop for a little bit and see if we have any questions on that.
Hey, it's Andrea.
Hey, how you doing?
Good, and you? Hey, I just got a report that the link to sign up right now is not working. So I'm going to report it to Hope and Jeannie.
Oh, well, that's bad news, because yeah, so we want to document any problems that people are having. This is a new process, and the regional board is trying to do what they can. Our position is they shouldn't even be hearing this at all. The bottom line is that we should be able to come in person and talk to them about this. There's no rush for this plant. We could do this next year. So problems are gonna pop up, and thank you, Andrea, for mentioning that.
Hi, Ray. This is Ramesh Singh from Chapman University. I like
Hi,
your
how you doing?
Good. I like your background. Okay.
Thank you. I wish I was there.
Yes. Oh, I see. Okay. So what you told us that there is a plant which is coming in Dana Point, which is a better place. And where is this plant we are talking about? Huntington Beach, or where?
So the Huntington Beach plant is they're proposing a 50 million gallon a day plant that will not follow the guidelines that the state has proposed. So that's the one we're opposing. That's the Poseidon project.
Okay.
And and then the Dana Point one is the one that will follow the state guidelines, and that if they want to design something like that, we don't oppose that design. Whether it's actually going to be adopted and built is another story. It's still very expensive water.
So what are the main highlights? Why you are opposing that one?
So the main highlights we're opposing Poseidon is because it will pollute our water, kill marine life, and cost too much, and all of that when we don't need it. Now, if we need something, so for instance, there's all kinds of things that have impacts to the environment that we actually need, and that we can accept those impacts because there's a significant need for that water or that service. For instance, there's a sewer outfall off of Orange County, several actually. We produce waste. That waste has to go somewhere. It gets treated and it gets discharged into the ocean, and that has an impact. But we're producing waste. It's got to go somewhere. So we need those facilities. This particular plant, the Poseidon project, I could go on for hours, and in fact, I could be glad to talk to you offline about that, about the lack of actual need for that. So there's no reason to pollute our water, kill marine life, and pay all that money for something we don't need when there's other alternatives that are much less environmentally damaging and cost effective.
Very good. Do you have a report on that?
I do. So one of the things you can go to is go to a website called California Desal Facts
Yes.
and .org, and that has, we have reports, we have articles, we have a 6-minute documentary. There's a lot of great information on there, and then also feel free to follow up with me directly afterwards.
Yeah, can you send me the link, please, so that I can see that later on, maybe?
Sure.
Because
Sure.
because
Like I said, I will be glad to follow up with you on that.
yes, I can leave my contact number and email address. Okay.
Yeah,
So
if you want to put that into the chat, that would be great.
to Ray. Okay. Okay. Sure. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
So now we'll go to the next part. So the next part is how can you participate right now? And the good part is you actually have the opportunity to participate right now. So to do that, you need to in the past, when there was a regular physical meeting, what you would do is you would walk into the meeting location, and there would be a table there with a speaker card, and you would grab a pen and fill out the speaker card with your name and what agenda item you wanted to speak on, and then you would go over and hand that to the clerk. So today, because this is an online meeting, there's a slightly different procedure. So what you need to do is to go online and fill out an online speaker card. So what I'm going to do is I'm gonna share my screen for a minute here, and I'm going to show you what that looks like. So here we go. So here's the registration page. So what you will do is you'll click on a link. And we will get that to you. This link is available just about everywhere. If you go to the Coastkeeper Facebook page, there's a post with this link. There's an event there with this link. You can send an email to me directly. So you need to fill this out and complete this by 5 o'clock today. We don't like that there's a 5 o'clock today deadline on that. We think you should be able to fill this out Friday morning before the meeting, like you would in a regular meeting, but that's the way it is. So that's what you need to do. So I wanted to show you what this registration page looks like. So it's very simple. All you really need to put in is your first name, last name, and your email address, and then the rest is optional. Then click on register. After you register, you will get an email back from Jamie Aguilar, and it will have a link to the meeting with a password. And that's for you to use. Then you'll just log on to the Zoom meeting like you are right now. And then when they get to the public comment period, they will go ahead and call your name. They will unmute you, and you will be able to speak. The other component to this, so that the reason I'm showing you this is they didn't make all of this really easy to find. So the agenda for the meeting is right here, and you're looking at this. Poseidon is actually item 3 on this agenda. So you can see there's item 3. And if you click on this link right here, it will take you to the staff report. So you'll be able to read the most recent staff report. And then if you want to just watch, so say you don't want to speak, but you want to see what's going on, or maybe you aren't able to fill out the registration form by the deadline. If on Friday, you click where it says live video at 9 o'clock, it's going to take you directly to the live stream, and you'll be able to watch the regional board meeting live. They won't know your name, but they're watching how many people are watching. So even if you don't speak, it's good to watch, that they know that there's a lot of people that are interested in that. And then the third part is they have a whole web page on how to participate in the online meeting. So like I said, we simplified it a little bit for you. So it talks about why they're going to an online meeting. If you only want to watch or listen to the meeting, then you can go to that site that I showed you on the agenda. And then if you want to provide oral comments, they have a bunch of guidelines here. Basically, this is just common sense stuff. You know, don't try to do anything, you know, pornographic online or start yelling cuss words or something like that, or they're gonna cut you off. And it goes through how you would go ahead and get your ID and password. You can also participate just on the telephone. So when you register, you will get that Zoom link. You will also get a telephone number back. So if for some reason you decide, hey, I don't even want to use Zoom. I just want to call in on the telephone. You can do that. They'll still ask you for your password to enter that in. And then you can either just listen in via the telephone, or if you want to speak, they will let you speak just via telephone. So how they did that last Friday is if you were just on the phone, if you're using Zoom, they can see your name, like you can see many of the names on this. But if you're on the phone, they just use the last 4 digits of your phone number to identify. So if you were on the phone, they would say, okay, the person with phone number ending in 1234, it's your turn to speak. And then they would unmute you, and then they would give you the chance to speak. So those are the 3. So again, to register, you need to do that by May 13th. That's today at 5 p.m. So you still have a couple, about an hour and a half. So you hopefully that website's up, and you should have plenty of time to do that if you want to, and we will be glad to get that information to you. So that's pretty much my that's my coverage on that right now. So with that, I'll be glad to open it up to any additional questions or comments you may have before we close it up on exactly how to participate. So I got a question from Jose. So what is the agenda item? It's agenda item number 3 that you'll want to sign up for. You can also just put Poseidon in there. They'll know what you're talking about. Okay, I guess with that, we'll wrap it up. It's been great talking to you all. Feel free to follow up with me, ray@coastkeeper.org. My email is really simple. If you're looking for, hey, where's that link to that website or something like that, shoot me over something right away. Okay, and they also put the link to sign up in the chat, so you can look in the chat and copy that real quick so that you have that. So great. So not seeing any more questions. Thanks again to everybody, and you have a great day.